Do you ever struggle with maintaining positive habits? Well, if so, this episode's for you. We're going to dive into how tracking your progress can help you to stay motivated. Welcome to the Claim Your Day podcast. Here, it's all about taking full advantage of the time we have today and becoming intentional with our actions so we each can have the impact we want. If you want to stop drifting through life and start directing your life, and you're open to a short podcast from someone who's working at the exact same thing, then welcome. You're in the right place, my friend. Hi, I'm your host, Nick Mazey. To respect your time and so you can claim your day, let's dive right in. Well, hello, my friend, and welcome. Welcome to episode 36, the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're here and joining in. This is the 6th episode of a series all about habits. If you missed any of the previous episodes, feel free to go back and check them out, as well as subscribe so you don't miss any more. We still have a few more in this series. But what's coming up next, the next series, it's all about really making the most of where we're at right now, halfway through the year, so that you can make this year the best that it can be. But before we get there, we got to finish out this series on habits. Do you ever want to stay motivated? Do you ever struggle to stay motivated with your habits? Or do you just want that? That sounds great. But what if a little bit of simple tracking of your progress could help be the fuel that you need to keep making progress, keep that momentum going, be a little bit motivated, and to continue to move forward toward the life that you want for you, your life, your family, your values? What if a little bit of simple tracking of your progress could help you to do all that? Well, that's what we're getting into today. Look, I know that habits are tough, and it's always the small habits that we really know we should do. But it's like what's easy to do is also easy not to do. The small things, yes, they're small, but skipping them also seems pretty small. So what if we could give you some strategies and make some adjustments, maybe a few little tips and tricks. You can find out what works for you and be able to make it so that you maintain those positive habits, those simple things to do. What if you were actually doing them on a day-by-day basis and began to live out your values through the habits that you've intentionally created for your life? I mean, that sounds awesome to me. I almost get goosebumps just thinking about it for you. So I want you to think about this just for a second of someone who is trying to develop this habit of exercising. And I know, forgive me, I know I use exercise a lot. Health is one of the things that's important to me. Maybe the things that resonate for you are different. So just substitute that right in because it really does work. So think about someone that was trying to develop this habit of exercising, but it was just tough. They started a little bit, then they began to get off track. They even listened to the last episode and used one of those strategies about getting it as small as possible just to get going. And that worked a little bit. But after a while, after they'd already started and maintained it, it was tough to stay on track with it. And they started to miss some days, and they just weren't really seeing that it was making any bit of difference in their lives. And they ended up just quitting. They ended up just quitting the habit altogether. And it took a little while before they even realized that they were off track. But what if instead of letting it go by the wayside, what if when it started to feel like it wasn't really making any difference, they started to track their progress? What if they started to write down how they were making progress each day, or tracking the streak that they were on for their exercise, or how many days they exercised in the week, or I exercised twice this week, check. I exercised twice this week, check. And they started to see the benefit, or they were tracking how much weight they were using and how they were feeling. What if they started to track the progress that they were making in whatever area of progress was important to them? What if they were tracking the progress that they were making and they began to see the progress because they were tracking it when they may not have felt the progress, especially on those days where they didn't feel like exercising? What if by tracking a little bit of that progress, they were able to stay on it and to keep it and to maintain it? Look, I'm going to ask you a real question. This is real. I want you to be honest. You don't have to email me. You don't have to put it on social media. You don't even have to tell anybody. But do you ever feel like sometimes your efforts aren't leading anywhere? Do you ever feel like you're putting in all this work and this effort and for what? You're just not seeing the payoff. If that's you, if it's been you or or if it might be you, you're not alone. And that is really a true benefit of tracking progress. Is it shows you that you are leading somewhere. It's a reminder to yourself that the effort you're putting in is worth it, it's impactful, it's valuable, it's meaningful, and it's making a difference. See, regularly tracking your habit progress provides the valuable feedback that you need. It reinforces the commitment that you've made. It actually boosts motivation. Look, I know motivation's a feeling. We can't count on it all the time. We got to choose our actions regardless on how we feel about it. But for crying out loud, if you can boost motivation, do it. Do it. Hey, if playing a little bit of hype music gets you going and gets you motivated, use it. That is a tool. Use it. I'm a little jaded on motivation because I don't want you to rely on it all the time. But if you're tracking your progress, helps give you some positive feedback or helps give you some valuable feedback, if it helps reinforce your commitment, if it boosts your motivation, if it makes it one iota easier and more likely that you're going to do the habit that you know you need to do, then isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it? See, I think when I track my progress, one of the benefits it has for me is it ties more closely together that small behavior, that small action, that tiny habit that I'm doing now. It ties that strongly for the results that I want, the progress I want to make, the impact I want to have, the life I want to live, being intentional in a life of significance. See, when I track my progress, it connects what I'm doing, that small action now, with that big why, the big payoff later that I'm working toward. That's one of the huge benefits for me when I'm tracking my progress. And honestly, sometimes just tracking my progress is just giving a little checkbox next to the habit I wanted to do, like I did it that day. Let's move on. That right there is profound, the impact that has, even though it's so simple and minute, really. John Maxwell talks a little bit about this in his law of awareness. And basically, it's just about being aware. If you don't, he says, if you don't know where you are, then you can't know where you're going. And tracking your habits, just tracking what you're doing, is a great way to be aware of where you're at, where you're succeeding, maybe where you're facing some challenges, what you're doing, and just connecting, tracking of your habit with the payoff that you're wanting to. Those things come together because you're becoming aware of where you're at right now, what you're doing, and where you're going. Now, if you're a busy parent juggling family and work and life and the home and maybe some hobbies and or whatever, just life, then this big task of having to track everything and tracking all the details of all this stuff, it might just seem like, wow, that's just going to be a whole lot more work and I don't have time for it. I'm busy and I'm already overwhelmed. No, thank you. Okay. Well, my response to all that is no, thank you. I don't want hours and hours of tracking. For me, this is just for me, but for me, I need things really simple and pretty easy. We can get challenging on the consistency side of it, but I need things small. I need small, tiny steps for me. If that's you, or if you're already overwhelmed with stuff and you don't want a whole bunch of other things to do and to track, I'm with you. That's why, on top of being aware of where we're at so we can know where we're going, a key point is making it as simple as possible. I got a little habit app on my phone, and literally, it's one of the little widgets, and I can just tap it, and that means that I've done that habit for the day. That's the extent of the habit tracking sometimes that I'm doing for some of my stuff. I also have I have a little paper calendar, a little planner, and literally I just put a checkbox next to some of the habits I have written down on there for the week. It's the simpler it is for me, the more likely that I'm going to do it, And when I'm more likely to do it, then it makes it easier that I'm going to do. And then I've developed that habit. And then ultimately, I've developed the habit of tracking my habits. But what's a simple way that you can track the habit that you're trying to start? Maybe it is journaling. Maybe it's a habit tracking app. Maybe you already use a planner. Maybe you have a digital planner and you can just put a repeating task on there and you're able to check it off. Think of some simple ways. There's tons of resources out there for you. If you're more of a digital person, then yeah, use something on that. If you're more paper and pen, great. Then you use something that's going to be in the format that makes the most sense for you. What I want you to think about here is consistency. Well, you're going to begin to consistently track doing the habit. It's not about perfection. There's that saying. It's actually from the 12-step groups, but I love it, so we'll use it here. And it's progress, not perfection. So here we're going to focus on consistency, not perfection. So if there was a way that you can just consistently track that you've done the habit, start there. Maybe you'll modify it later, maybe you'll grow it, but just like the habit that you're creating, that tiny habit, being consistent with it is more important than the habit being this big, huge, robust, perfect habit. Well, tracking your habits the same way too. So, what's a simple thing that you can do to track your habit so that you can stick to it? And there's another key point with this is that, when you're tracking your habit, it's going to help boost your motivation to be able to keep doing that habit. And that is huge, my friend. That's huge. And a lot of that motivation is going to come from the consistency that you're developing. Seeing your progress, seeing the check marks, seeing that streak that you're on, that is going to be a great motivator. And now, like I said, motivation is just a feeling, so we don't want to rely on it. But for crying out loud, if you can help develop that motivation and use it as a tool, then do it. And tracking your progress is a wonderful way to really boost that motivation, to make it easier for you to follow through on these habits that you're developing. Look, the main connection here is really just, it's all about responsibility and self-monitoring. Self-monitoring. Because if you're going to claim your day, you're going to make the most of it, you're going to live intentionally, then you've got to be able to monitor yourself for where you're at, where you're going. This goes right back to John Maxwell's law of awareness, and that is kind of focusing on, what you've got going on right now, the adjustments that you need to make, and being able to make them. And in order to do that, you've got to track what you're doing at least a little bit. At least a little bit. In tracking your habits, it really demonstrates that you're having that ownership of the growth that you want for your life, and you're making it happen. So, what's one small, simple method that you're going to use to track your tiny habit that you're developing? Just pick one simple way. You might change it, a week or a month or a year from now. That's fine. But how are you going to track the habit, at least initially? Is it a piece of paper? Is it having a checklist? Is it using a digital app? If it's going to be on your calendar, your planner, your wall calendar while you're journaling, select one way. It's like the smallest step that you can take. If you're already journaling, great, use that. If you're already using a wall calendar, great, use that. Use something that's really close or something you're already doing. That way, it's going to be easier for you to start the habit of tracking your habit. Now, what I also want you to think about is committing to checking in every day to record whether you've performed that habit. So it's something that you're going to have to see every day, to do every day. It doesn't need to be big. Please don't make it big. Make it small, make it simple, and make it repeatable. That way you're committing for at least this next week to check in on yourself every day and record whether you've done your habit. Sound good? You're going to pick your tracking method and you're going to commit to your daily check-in on that tracking method. Sound good? You can do this, my friend. You can. This is where you're going to really make sure that your habit is moving forward, and you're going to be able to continue to make progress by tracking that progress that you're making. It's going to be a huge benefit to you. I already know it. Look, tracking helps provide that awareness and helps fuel your motivation. These are two things that are going to help you to make those habits solid in your life so that you can be claiming your days, that you can be intentional with your actions, your behaviors, your choices, and live your best life for you, yourself, your family, and your values. Look, I can't wait for you to see the progress that you're going to make and to live it out. That is going to be huge. Start tracking your daily habit this week, my friend. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're joining in, listening in, taking part, in what we're doing here so that you can be intentional with your life. This is your one and only life, my friend. And I want you to be intentional so it can be exactly what you want, so that you can have that impact that you're looking for. All right. You can go to nickmazy.com for resources. And as always, I'm going to ask that you rate and review this podcast or share it with somebody. That way somebody can find it amongst the billion other podcast episodes and downloads and all the other stuff going on out there these days and all the noise. Help them to find something that can help them to be more intentional. All right. Thank you for listening. Take care. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode.